Hello there, and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We are live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Tribal politics or fury over perceived attempt to disenfranchise people. We hear from opposition NDC and government as it fights off claims military personnel have been deployed to the voter region to intimidate prospective registrants for the new voter roll. We have details from the press conference and the NDC's press conference as we look at preparations towards the registration process tomorrow. Coming up also, junior high school reopens as BEC students prepare. We are on the ground to find out how the young ones are able to comply with COVID-19 protocols. Also in this edition, sharp rise in Ghana's coronavirus cases as more than 900 new cases are recorded in 2 days and 103 people die. We have details coming up shortly. We're live on your digital television for free, also on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We stream live on YouTube. You can join us there. Send your thoughts to us on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest.
The Pulse is brought to you by
Stop Cough from Ernest Chemists.
Welcome to the show. I'll take you through the details. Now, basic schools in the country have opened their doors to final year students many months after they were closed down as a result of coronavirus. The main task is to prepare them for the basic education certificate examination. But this comes at a time that the country's coronavirus case count continues to rise. JoyNews' Maxwell Agbagba visited some schools in the Ayawaso East Municipal Assembly and has been speaking also to the Director of Education, who says there will be effective monitoring of all the health protocols.
We are currently here at the Nima cluster of schools, and the Nima cluster of schools is the place where the distribution of COVID-19 PPEs is actually taking place. So you find heads of institutions driving here and coming for their PPE. You find face masks, you'd also find hand sanitizers, there's liquid soap, some of them would also come for Veronica buckets. All of these are parts of the items being distributed here. Hajia Ramatu Gariba, who is the director for the Ayawaso East Education Directorate.
Fortunately, Ayawaso East, we don't have that problem. We have space, and we also have furniture. Fortunately, our MC gave us over 1,000 furniture last term. So furniture is not a problem. The space too is not a problem because Form 1 and 2 are not coming. So we have space and we have the furniture. So as for the social distance, we don't have problem. Some are even going to be less than 30 in a class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But touch wood. I mean, touch wood. Should we have a case of coronavirus? What mechanisms have been put in place? What health mechanisms have been put in place to ensure the safety of other students?
Well, we have our SHEP coordinators, and this morning, after the distribution, we have the health director coming to talk to all of them, and she will spell out all the modalities. All the schools, public and private, have been aligned to clinics. Okay. And they will be taking care of their temperature, and regularly they will be monitored. So I think that one too is well catered for. The health director is willing and ready, and some few private clinics too nearer to the schools are going to take part in helping to have this issue. Okay. We shall be going around monitoring. We will go around the schools and we'll be checking all those things.
To find out, what's your assessment of the reopening? You've been going around, and you're even here helping in the distribution of the PPEs. What do you think? What's your assessment of the reopening in this municipal assembly?
Well, I think it's okay. We were expecting that Monday will rather be settled in class, but unfortunately we are doing this today. Apart from that, I think that's fine. Tomorrow when you come, I believe, even getting to afternoon, I believe you see them in class.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So So far, so good. It's not bad. At least we are 60% plus.
So these are some of the face masks. These are tissue papers that will be distributed. You remember President Akufo-Addo in his speech yesterday talked about all of these items, talked about the tissue papers, gallons of liquid soaps. He talked about the face masks. All of them are here and they are being distributed to the various schools. On a normal day, when you come to a classroom like this, you find the chairs, the desks very close, but that is not the case today. These schools are required to ensure social distancing, in the classroom, and that is what is happening here. Let's speak to some of the students. Let's find out from them, what they make of the reopening of schools.
Because I can get to learn what I've been taught again, because we've been home for so many months, and I'm happy to come to school again because I can learn again so that I can recover what I've been taught already.
Okay, I'm excited because we are in school to do some things and revise, and then we write our final exams.
So whilst you're in school, what are you going to do to ensure that you are safe from the coronavirus?
Okay, yeah. You wear your nose masks, you sanitize your hand, you wash your hand frequently. Yeah.
Well, those masks certainly don't look like the one that the government distributed. Well, did they have them or did they not have them? Did they choose to wear their own? We don't know, but let's find out from other places. Albert Sori is joining me from the Upper East region, where there was sharp contracts between one private school and a public school at Bolgatanga in that region as the final year student returned today. Well, whilst pupils of Great Victory Academy, a private school, were provided face masks and hand washing facilities by their school authorities, their counterparts at Calbeo Tindosombrigo JHS, which is a public school located in the same area, did not have face masks nor access to hand washing facility. Let's get more as Albert joins me via Zoom. I have Albert, I have Martina as well, so we're focusing a bit more up north. Hi, Albert.
Hi, Gifty.
Albert, so tell us what accounted for this, if you like, contrast between these schools, especially when the other is a public school.
Yes, so I chose these two schools mainly because I've done a story in the past in the community where these two schools are located. That is Tindosombrigo. Now, this is a community known for water shortages and scarcity of water from time to time. In fact, there have been times when the community people have had to depend on a dam in the area to get water. So I was curious to know if the basic school pupils were having access to water, considering the fact that they have to return to school today. So I visited the Great Victory School first, and that is a private school. Now, what is significant to note is that in these two schools, they told me that they had not yet received the face masks that the government is distributing. And so in the case of Victory School, some of the pupils came to school with their own face masks, but then the school know the number of pupils who are final year students or who are in their final year. So they provided 76 face masks for them, and that is their total number. So once you arrive, you are expected to go and wash your hands. Also, they've provided a water facility, a hand washing facility with soap and all of that. So once the people arrive, whether it is the parent or the people comes to school on their own, on their bicycle, they are directed to stop, wash their hands. They have a resident nurse at the school who takes their temperature with the temperature gun. Then he gives them one face mask before they go into the classroom. Okay, so that is what their school authority decided to do on their own as they wait for the government to distribute the masks.
I see.
Now, the other school, which is the Calbeo Tindosombrigo Basic School, also located in the same area, is the public one. And so in their case, because the government face masks haven't yet gotten to them, they didn't have their own face masks. So they came to school like that. Now, in their school, they have a borehole in front of the school, which I thought they would have been using. But they said that the borehole actually belongs to the community, and they, the peoples, also managed to use it. But then it has broken down. So it gets to a point where when you are pumping water from this borehole, the water doesn't flow. So what they did today was to get 2 plastic buckets and then get some students to fetch water. And then they had this ablution container, the one Muslims use to perform ablution. So they fill that one, and then they take turns to pour the water for themselves to wash hands. But even at the time that I arrived there, that water in that container was almost running out. And so that is the difference between the two schools.
Albert, I'll come back to you, but this is really interesting because this is one container that has one handle. So what it means is that everybody will have to touch the same handle and pour out the water. I'll come back to you, Albert. Let's see what Martina has. Martina, it's been, what, about 2 hours beyond the time for closing. What can you report from your area? Hi, Martina, can you hear me? All right, we'll bring back Martina, but Rafiq Salam, also for the Upper West region, is standing by for us. Hi, Rafiq. Hi, Rafiq. Martina, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Amazing. So tell us, Martina, I was asking, schools, junior high schools must have closed by now. They were supposed to close at 1 o'clock, we gather. What can you report from your area, Martina?
Yes, they are closed now. The students have gone home. But earlier in the day, I went through some of the schools, and I must say that most of the schools I visited, the students were not wearing masks. And those who had the mask had it in their pockets. And so you ask the person, do you have a mask? He says, yes. Where is it? Then the person puts it out. So I asked, why were they not wearing the mask? One of the pupils told me that the friends were laughing at her, and so she had to put the mask back in her pocket. So I asked her whether the students laughing and then she being infected with corona, which of them would she prefer? She says she prefers the colleagues laughing at her. So I asked her to wear. And it was to almost all the schools I visited. Most of the schools did not have the PPEs. Yeah, the students were saying that they are yet to receive them. In one of the schools, a teacher confirmed that, yes, they are yet to receive them. But the issue is most of them didn't also have water for them to wash their hands like they are supposed to do. And so the students were just not practicing the protocols that were laid down by we're supposed to follow. And so they are not washing their hands. They didn't have sanitizers. They didn't have face masks. And it ran across almost all the schools that I visited.
Okay. Well, certainly these are early days yet. So hopefully the authorities will be watching this and will be getting some cues as to what ought to be done. Martina, I'll come back to you both and Albert so that we find out whether or not authorities in these areas are saying anything about this. What response are we getting? But let me connect with okay, let's go to Anas Sabit. Anas Sabit is in Bono East, is joining us from there. Anas Sabit, Anas, you're reporting that all the schools within which you made checks have received their PPEs. What more can you add? Anas, are you there?
Yeah, Gifty, I can hear you.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah, I've visited a couple of schools here as well. And in fact, almost all the schools I've visited, I have seen on the grounds students all with nose masks. In fact, not apart from the nose masks they came to school with personally, the schools have also provided them with a nose mask from government. I've visited the Teachman Zongo school. I've also visited the Teachman Amial MA school. I've also visited some private schools, and they've all confirmed to me that they have all received the nose masks that were supposed to be handed over to them by governments. Apart from the nose mask, they also confirmed to me that they have received thermometer guns. All the schools have in place thermometer guns issued them by government. They also have verification packets where all schools have been all the places I've visited are using them as and when I got there. Also, the social distancing protocols are being observed in the classrooms because all the classes have checked, all the schools have checked. The maximum number of students I have is with Zongo School, who had 63 students, and they've been divided into 3. That is 21 students per class, and the distancing has also been monitored closely. So I'm yet to have any signal that there's a school who is here to receive 8 PPs as promised by authorities.
I'll come back to you. Rafiq, what do you have? Okay, Rafiq, if you try and unmute for me, I probably can hear you when you speak. But let me come back to you, Albert. Albert, so this peculiar situation with these 2 schools that have very different stories to tell. Apart from these 2 schools, the other schools around, have you received any information on how they're doing? Are the children able to cope with having a mask on throughout? And are they even, you know, respecting the protocols? I mean, what is the talk there?
Yes, so before I visited the 2 schools at Tindon Sobligo, I went through the Catholic cluster of schools. These are mission schools around the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Bolgatanga. This was in the morning. At the time, they were cleaning. And so I didn't get the opportunity to speak to the school authorities or the students because there was only one teacher there the first time I got there. And he said that he wasn't sure if he was allowed to speak to the media. So I should come back later and talk to the headmistress. But then I noticed that they had a poly tank which was full of water, and some of the students were washing their hands there. A few of them were also wearing face masks that, you know, I realized were their own face masks that they had come to school with. But at the time, they were cleaning. So I didn't get the opportunity to interact with them. But then by the time I returned from the Victory School and the Nosobligo School, which are out of town, the other schools had already closed. So I didn't get the opportunity to know the peculiar stories that were there. But I noticed that they also had polytanks that had water in them that the peoples could use. Okay. But not every people was wearing a face mask.
It is indeed the first day, yet we learn from the mistakes and we move on. But we also, most importantly, want to find out what authorities are doing about some of these discrepancies. Finally, for me, Albert, is there any response at all? Have authorities said anything today, briefly for me?
No, we haven't heard from authority yet. There is a circular for the Upper East Regional Education Directorate, which bans teachers and headmistresses from granting interviews to the media. It's been there since 2014. So most of the time when you go to schools to do interviews, public schools especially, they usually don't grant the interview. A few heads will give you access to the peoples, but they themselves wouldn't speak. So we're hoping that tomorrow, maybe the regional minister will visit some of the schools, and then we will get to hear from the authorities in the region.
I almost called you Rafiq. Albert, thank you. Albert, I'll come to you for final word if we get the chance to. But let me bring in Rafiq. Rafiq, can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Amazing. What can you report from the Upper West region?
The situation in the Upper West region is not different from that of the Upper East region. I have visited some few schools here in the Wa municipality, and I can report to you that as early as 8 o'clock, some of the pupils were right at the school. Some even came before the head teachers of the various schools. So I met some of them. They were doing cleaning, and some were sitting akimbo. And so, but one thing that I can report to you is that majority of the students or the pupils that I met in these schools were not on masks. They were not on.
Did you find out from them why they didn't have a mask? Because government.
Veronica Abakes around.
Rafik, I was just asking.
I spoke to them. I spoke to them, and they told me that I asked them those questions why they were not on masks, and they said that their understanding was that they will come to school for them to be provided with a nose mask, and that's why they came without the nose mask. And so I tried to speak to some authorities of these schools, and they won't like to speak to me on record. Like Albert said, there's been a circular from the Ghana Education Service banning teachers or teachers from speaking to the media. And so it's really difficult to get information from these schools. But we were told that the head teachers have gone to the education office to bring these nose masks around. But the information that we have stumbled upon showed that at the moment there are no nose masks in the municipality for now. They haven't been brought to the region. And so most of the schools in the municipality are even closed before the arranged time of 1 p.m. And so a couple of hours they were at school because there were no personal protective equipment for these teachers. Some of the schools have closed early.
Interesting. They closed early. It's interesting to know. Let me bring in. We've gone to the Upper East region. We know that not everybody has the necessary PPEs. We've gone to the Bono East, where we're told that everybody has. But what is the story in the Eastern region? Maxwell Kudeko is there for us. Maxwell, what did you find today?
Well, as at 6:30 a.m., I visited the Mile 50 MA Basic School here in Koforidua. And then at 6:30 a.m., I met two of these students waiting or playing in the compound of the school. So I questioned them. You are supposed to report, or classes are supposed to start at 9. It's not 7 yet, but you are here. So the kids told me that they are tired of being sent on an errands daily in their various homes. So like it was just a joy for them for government to reopen school. So they even came to school earlier before the set time. I visited a couple of schools in the municipality, the Fijase Presby School, the Fijase Methodist, ME Zion, and other basic schools in the New Durban North and South municipality. As at 10:30 a.m., most of these schools have not taken delivery of the personal protective equipment promised government. But distribution started around 11 a.m. in the New Durban North and South municipality. Preparedness level at most of the schools were very low. Some were like they were seated idle, waiting for government to deliver the personal protective equipment. The difference is that the basic school seems to be ahead. The preparatory school seems to be ahead of the government school. In most of the preparatory school I visited, like the St. Mary's schools, the Kovo school, you could see that the authority have putting in place enough measures, including checking the temperatures of the students before they allow entry. Almost every classroom has got a Veronica bucket with running water and what have you. So the difference is very clear. As of now, we are told that most of the schools have received their PPEs in the New Durban North and South municipality. In the Yulo Krobo municipality, I visited one school, the Somenya RCJHS. And right from there, you realize that these guys are not prepared. The school was pushy. There was no indication that authorities were going to clear the place. So as at the time I visited, you could see that all wasn't too well with the school. Okay. One observation I made was that most of the students have face masks and they are putting them in their pockets. A few of them are wearing it, and some also don't have the face masks at all. If you ask them, they say that they are waiting for government to deliver the face masks and other protective equipment to them. So these are the quick observation I made from the monitoring I had this morning. Okay. In part of the. Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm just going to go around all of you to take your very final words. I mean, this is a very different situation. This is something that we're all not used to. But the things that are coming up right now in all that you submitted today is that there are private schools. The private schools you visited seems to be better prepared and seems to have all the PPEs they needed and all the measures in place. But as against the public schools rather should be having these things. So those are things that when we get the chance to, we can ask authorities to help us on. We also know that a lot of the students are keeping the masks in their pockets. I mean, we know how we used to have new shoes or new slippers, and we'll put our hands in the slippers and walk barefooted because they are new. It looks like that's what's going on. I'm wondering to find out your own perspective of how you believe authorities will be able to look at these mistakes and work on it, so that when tomorrow we go checking, we'll find more. We find better situations on the ground. Albert, I'll start with you for your final words. Based on your experience covering your region, what do you envisage will happen between now and say tomorrow or next week?
I think that for the schools that are waiting for government's face masks to arrive, I don't know when these masks will arrive, because at the Tindon Sobligo school, which is the public school that I visited, the teacher who was there, who didn't want to be interviewed, said that the headmaster had gone to the education office to check, on whether the face masks had arrived, and so to see if he could bring them for the students of the school. So we are hoping that in the coming days, if these face masks haven't arrived yet, they should arrive. The challenge is that most public schools, especially those of them in rural areas like Tindon Sobligo, have challenges with water. There are some that are lucky to be close to boreholes like the one I visited. But that challenge of access to water is likely to be there for most of the basic schools. And we are hoping that maybe TP taps and other innovations like that will help address this problem.
I'm hopeful.
We'll have to see as the week progresses.
Right, by all means. I'm hopeful also that the regional minister, Tango Babayage, is also keeping an eye on this, and I hope that someone will see this and let them know what the problem is on the ground if they have not yet received it. Albert, thank you. We'll let you go. Let me move on to Martina. Martina, from the northern region, you are reporting that some of them have it, but of course they're not wearing it. They're keeping it in their pocket. With your experience, what do you envisage will happen? And in your case, have we had any response from authorities at all?
What we know is that the region has received its PPEs, but they are yet to be distributed. At one of the schools, the head teacher told me that he was waiting for a call from the Ghana Education Service, and once he gets that call from the directorate, he'll be going for the PPEs. But I also must say that this head teacher, who would not obviously talk to me, was also giving pep talk to the students. He was talking about the protocols they need to observe and ensure that they actually adhere to them strictly if they want to be safe. And I think that if that is replicated in most of the schools, if the head teachers speak to these children about the need to observe the protocols, it will go a long way in helping the coronavirus spread in the region. Now, I must say that the northern region itself, a lot of people are not wearing masks. If you take 10, you probably get 1 or 2 people who are wearing masks. And so the children are taking a cue from what is happening with the adults. And so maybe the region will have to step up its campaign when it comes to wearing of face masks.
Martina, thank you. I'm sure that tomorrow we'll be able to come back to you and find out what exactly authorities have done or said about this development. Martina there from the northern region. Let me refer to Rafiq. Rafiq, I know that you have eyes everywhere, in every corner of your area. With the development you've reported on, what do you envisage is going to happen?
I would tell you that the students are happy to be back at school. When I spoke to them, they were really happy that they were excited after staying at home for almost 2 months. They are happy to be back. The teachers here are also ready to teach the children, but what they are lacking is a personal protective equipment, and that's what they are calling on government to provide for them. It's still early days yet, and then it's only today that we are reporting. So we are only hoping that maybe tomorrow, from tomorrow going, things may change in the municipality or the region to a large extent, because a lot of the protocols talk about social distancing, the use of face masks are not being adhered to at the schools. Even when I go to some of these schools, I have to even shout on some of the children to tell them that social distancing, then they will begin to space out. And so Martin also made an important statement talking about the lack of observing this issue of nose masks. In the app course reading here, it's also the same. When you move, you can move close to over 100 people. None of them will be wearing face masks. And so it's because of that they are taking a clue from the communities and that they have taken back to the schools. So you go to the schools today. When I go to the schools, I was very worried because you can count about over 100 students. None of them were wearing face masks. And the
Rafik, if I may just interrupt you. If I may just interrupt you briefly, Martina indicated that for some of the schools, she got information that some have received the PPEs, but they are waiting for some sort of authorization before they distribute them. Do you know of any such situation in your area?
In the case of the Upper West region here, they are yet to receive.
Okay.
They haven't gotten them, and that's the reason why schools in the Upper West region today close early.
All right.
You know, the stipulated time was 1 p.m. By 11, 12 o'clock, most of the schools in the women's were closed.
Okay.
So the personal protective equipment isn't here. The teachers have not gotten them. They are ready to go to school. The teachers are ready. The students are ready to back to school. I don't know them. What they are urging government to do is to do the needful to bring them this personal protective equipment so that they will be able to teach the children, and the children will be able to learn not to find to pass their examination.
I hope that we'll get a better story to tell with the correction, of course, tomorrow. Rafik, thank you for joining in with that detail. Let's get on to Bono East region, where my colleague Anas Sabito is also reporting that from his checks, the schools, all the schools there, the basic schools there have received their PPEs. Anas, again, for you, what do you envisage will be happening between now and then? There's one thing receiving the PPEs, it's another thing distributing them, and it's another thing making sure that the children wear it. We know that they're putting them in their pockets. What do you envisage from your perspective and based on your experience of covering this region will happen in the next few days?
Gifty, with regards to the issue of the PPEs, I have been to several schools, and the teachers are ensuring that without the nose masks, students are not going to be allowed into the classrooms. Right. In fact, almost all the schools I visited, the teachers told me these students were even with a nose mask, or they came to school with their own nose mask before they were given the one provided by government. So this enforcement remains key to the authorities in these schools I have visited. In fact, almost all the schools I have visited, all the students were on nose masks, either those they came to the school with or the ones provided by government. So that there's an that by students. What I realized is that apart from the nose mask, instead of getting 3 each, they were provided with 2 each, with a promise that the other one will be brought into the school subsequently. So instead of having 3 nose masks each, they were provided with 2 nose masks each, with a promise that they will add up 1 more later. The only thing I saw missing was the absence of tissue papers. None of the schools I visited were provided with tissue papers, but the head teachers told me that will be provided within the week. So apart from this, I mean, the issue of the tissue papers, almost everything with regards to face masks, Veronica buckets, liquid soaps, hand sanitizers, all the students were given hand sanitizers. And in one of the schools I visited, the head teacher has told the students to all write their names on the hand sanitizer, and it will be taken from the students before they leave for their house, because it is meant to be used in the schools. So the school will be keeping them in the school so that the next morning when they come, they will be handed back to the students so that they'll be able to manage its usage. So so far, that is what I know I've seen on the grounds, and I'm very sure from what I've seen today, the teachers will be able to maintain its usage subsequently.
I sincerely hope so. Nas, thank you. Looks like Bono East is becoming a model region, if you like, as far as the reopening of the basic schools is concerned. And Nas is reporting that everything seems to be going on course, in exception of, you know, one more face mask that's supposed to be received by these students and tissue paper. It looks like everything is on course in the Bono East region. Great news to know. Let's go to Eastern region. Maxwell Kudeko is still hanging. All right, I do have Ivy who is joining me. Let me wrap up with Maxwell, and we bring Ivy in. Maxwell, you've indicated that private schools have these PPEs. Public schools do not have them. I'm not sure if you have heard from authorities there, but of course we know that authorities are being told not to grant interviews to the media. Based on your experience, once again, what do you envisage will happen between now and tomorrow and the weeks ahead, the days ahead?
Well, the distribution of the PPEs in the public schools started late morning, around 11 thereabouts. So we envisage that by tomorrow, each student will have access to these PPEs. But on the issue of adherence to the safety protocols, and the fact that most of the students who have their personal nose masks but are not putting them on, somebody will attribute it to this long-held opinion or cliche that Ghanaians are slow to change. You know, this is not a practice that is often done in their homes. So it's becoming difficult to be used to the practice. So it is believed that if the teachers take them through series of orientation on the need to wear the nose masks and adhere religiously to the safety protocols, to go a long way to helping keep all of them on track. One nice thing happened this morning in most of the preparatory schools. In the two preparatory schools that I visited, before classes started, the school authority had an orientation session of a sort to them, trying to expose the children to the need to keep to the social distancing and what about the COVID-19 and all the other relevant information that the kids need to know. They also had the opportunity to allay their fears that there will be mass spread and whatever. So I think that if the public schools also continue with this orientation and engagement with the students, to go a long way, keeping all of us on track within this short period that to be honest. And
I agree with you 100%. Orientation, reorientation is certainly the way to go, given that they're keeping the masks in their pockets. Thank you, Maxwell Kudeko there. Let's wrap this up with Ivy Setoji, who is joining us from the Volta region. Hi, Ivy. Ivy, I'm hoping that you can hear me. What can you report? We've looked at, across the regions. What we're finding is that private schools have PPEs. Some public schools don't have it. They don't also have water. Some don't have tissue paper, etc. Those who have it, some of the students are keeping them in their pocket. What can you report from the Volta region?
Yeah, so it's almost like in the Volta region. Some of the students were provided PPEs from home by the parents. That some of them were not able to use it. They have it in their pocket and they want to see them before
Yeah, unfortunately, we're unable to give you a perfect sound from Ivy's end. We'll try and get that in a report when she sends it subsequently. But I mean, so far the conversation that we've had, we're hearing from our correspondent that students or pupils are keeping the masks in their pocket. It looks like some education is needed there, orientation and reorientation. Maxwell is reporting that some orientation was going on when he visited the private schools. Looks like something we should be doing more. Student engagement to orient them to understand the need not to keep them in their pockets. Private schools are receiving some of the PPEs. The public schools, most of the public schools our reporters visited don't have it. So far, it looks like the Bono East is a model region. They have their PPEs. In fact, except for those who have 2 instead of 3, and those who don't have tissue paper, it looks like everything is on course in the Bono East region. And we're also hearing as well that the teachers, of course, authorities aren't allowed to talk to us. We'll certainly be looking more into this and bring you more. If you live anywhere in these areas and if your children went to school, if you were a teacher yourself, I'd love to hear from you. If you can WhatsApp me on 0540109009. Knowing what we know now, what can we do to improve upon the situation going forward? Well, President of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Philippa Larson, says the delay in the distribution of the PPEs can actually affect the smooth running and reopening of the schools. She's been speaking to us earlier on the AM show.
We are not in normal times, and parents are expecting their wards to be well protected. And I believe that is why we are putting all these measures in place so that teachers will be able to monitor their children, so that maybe in the classroom setting, once we have a limited number of students, we make sure they don't get too close to and all that. Sure that teachers and students are protected.
What has been given to teachers so far?
For now, nothing yet. And in almost all the districts I spoke with yesterday, they received the items yesterday and probably will begin the distribution this morning. And so that is what is going to happen this morning. We'll be going around to monitor what is happening in all the schools. But we are hoping that all the items will get to the school. We don't want happening to the senior high schools to happen to us. On Friday, when I visited some of the few schools, there were lots of challenges. Some schools have received only one nose mask or face mask or whatever. And we wouldn't want those things that happen at the senior high school level to happen at the JHS level, to be honest with you.
What is a teacher entitled to?
A teacher is entitled to 3 face masks, and just as the students are also entitled to. Then the schools are entitled to Veronica buckets, tissue papers, liquid soaps, sanitizers, and all the items that have been mentioned by the president himself. And so these are the items that we are expecting.
So if distribution is now taking place, when do you expect that real lessons will be taught in the classroom? Because if you don't have, in the absence of the personal protective equipment, you can't reasonably go about your duty as a teacher.
That is the challenge, my sister. And even for today, I believe a lot of the schools will be doing education for their students. And so as and when the items are received, the teachers will have to take the children through how to use all the items that have been given. And so for today, I don't know when instructional hours or normal classes will begin. But normally, according to the president and the timetable, we are supposed to start lessons at 9. Meanwhile, the children are not even supposed to do any cleaning and all that. And so this morning, I believe all the schools will be looking at how to clean the compounds and how lessons are going to begin.
You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando Apia. We're taking a look at the reopening of schools for the basic junior high school or the junior high schools, and for the final year students to go back and prepare for their BECA. We've realized a few things, but we're told that any further delays in the provision of PPEs to these schools will slow down their ability to work effectively. I'm going to take a very quick break. When I return, is it unhealthy tribal politics or fury over perceived attempts to disenfranchise people? We'll be hearing from the opposition NDC as well as government as it fights off claims that military personnel have been deployed to this Volta region deliberately to intimidate prospective registrants for the new voter roll there. We'll have details also from the press conference held by the NDC earlier as I said, and we'll be looking at preparations towards the registration process, which begins tomorrow. Welcome back to the show, and many thanks for your time. Now, the global COVID-19 pandemic, according to medical researchers, has led to unprecedented psychological stress on health workers. But the disease is equally imposing a significant level of anxiety and stress on everyone. Some persons have lost their jobs, others are in debt, and many more shut their offices. Workers are concerned about getting infected and infecting their families. The needed concentration to work effectively is being affected. And that is why it's important for companies to ensure minimal psychological stress on their employees so productivity is not affected. How can this be done? I have with me two psychotherapists from the Employees Assistance Program to help us with this conversation. Patience Ochre is the Integrated Psychotherapist and CEO of EA App. Patience, thank you for your time. I hope I got your name right, though.
My name is Patience Ochre.
Ochre. I thought as much. Patience Ochre is an integrated psychotherapist and CEO for EAP Africa. I also have.
Excellent.
I also have. Okay, ladies, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so I'm just going to ask the other person that I've not introduced to just introduce yourself to us. Help us, Billy Richardson.
Yes, I'm Billy. I'm Billy Richardson.
Right.
I'm a psychotherapist, and I work for EAP Africa.
Sincere apologies for that mix-up there. I almost got lost with the name. So I'm not sure how you personally are taking it all. I mean, having been psychotherapist, you certainly are soaking in a lot of other people's problems, I believe. How has it been for you personally?
It's been very, very challenging in terms of the deluge of phone calls that we have in. EAP Africa, we provide 24-hour services for corporate organizations and individuals. So any work or personal life related issues, you can call the number 24/7, and we have a wide range of professionals to assist you. So as you can imagine, with the pandemic crisis, there's a lot of people contacting us, and we're just working around the clock with issues relating to the pandemic, and also other suppressed issues where people have not dealt with, unresolved issues. So the pandemic has brought other things to light. So in answer to your question, we are extremely busy.
And Billy, I'm coming to you, and I get the busy side, which also some way, somehow, unless it's for the services are for free, it also means a lot more money, which is a good thing. But really, I want to find out personally as an individual, how being there for people or being able to provide these services takes a toll on people like yourself. Then we can talk about other people.
Personally, I don't see it as taking a toll on me. I'm actually quite happy to be there to do the give them the service. It just added more hours, but I'm really happy that somebody like us has actually made ourselves available for them, because like patients just said, they're going through a range of emotions that they've never had to deal with before. To me, it's like this pandemic has put everything that was already going on in the background under the microscope. So somebody who was dealing with depression before, now they're finding it really, impossible to deal with. People dealing with anger issues. I mean, the range of challenges that we face every day is unbelievable. But I'm just happy that we are there 24/7, like patient said.
And I'm happy to know that the one person that you can go to has a mental fortitude to be there. So now let's look at the problems that people are bringing up, or the kind of problems that are coming up because of coronavirus. But I need to alert you too that you're not wearing a mask and you're pretty close. So I'm going to ask.
We have our temperature. We have a temperature gun, and we do that every time we come into the office. We sanitize and wash our hands, and we do work together daily.
Okay.
I know we're not giving the right example, but we find it a bit difficult to speak with our mask.
Okay, I was just getting a bit of feedback, and I thought that I'd share that with you whilst we go on. So it looks like a patient wants to grab one. It's okay, patience. You can go ahead and grab one if you want to.
No, it's on my table here. How did you know that?
Okay, so let's just do right. Let's just work this out. And Billy, let me ask you, what sort of problems are you dealing with? That can help us understand the kinds of things that people are dealing with in these COVID times, then we can take the advice on the back of that.
I think the main thing that I've noticed is people are dealing with uncertainties. They just don't know what's going on. They don't know how long it's going to go on for. They don't know what the next step is. They don't know anything, you know, and a lot of people are also working from home, and the children are learning from home. So in terms of time management, they find it impossible to juggle. We have a lot of one-parent families who are now working from home. They have now to become teachers, and you know, a lot of them had to get rid of their house help because they can't manage the in and out all the time. They're facing, you know, losing their jobs, mortgage issues. I mean, it's a long list.
Yeah.
Anger issues. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with how people who have these problems you've outlined can deal with it. Patience, maybe I can come into you on this one. Billy talks about uncertainty, the anxiety that comes with uncertainty. So for people who are at the moment with this condition, maybe they've just had someone close to them has contacted the virus, maybe they just don't know whether they have it or not. They don't even want to go through the test because they feel that it's better if you don't know. What sort of advice do you give such people?
Well, what we do, we don't actually give advice. We explore, because, I mean, we all have different emotional resources. So what you can cope with, I might not be able to cope with. So what we do is that we explore the emotional state of the one who contacts us. So in terms of worry, I mean, we can all worry about something. There's no problem in terms of worrying. But then when your mind is preoccupied with a particular situation, then obviously there is a problem there. So what we do, we provide different therapeutic services and techniques to help you to reframe your thought process. So again, if you are encountering constant self-defeating thought process, i.e. negative thought patterns engage in your mind, we have different techniques that will help you to reframe your thought process so that it can help you throughout the process. So when worry exceeds and goes into anxiety or panic attacks, then we've got a serious problem there. So that is when we engage you in more in-depth therapeutic processes to help you to be able to manage your emotional state better.
Okay. And for parents who have now become teachers, who are having to deal with their spouses 24/7 in their faces, who have to deal with their children jumping up and down 24/7, and who also have to teach them. I just want you to give the people who are watching us right now who are dealing with these problems, I mean, give them a session, if you may. What will you say to them, Billy?
Okay, I mean, we do have a lot of clients going through that. And, you know, being on lockdown has had its positive and its negatives. Okay, I mean, we're all aware of the negatives, but personally, I try to get them to focus on the positive. What is good about being on lockdown? And a lot of people told me, a lot of clients have told me, they're now rediscovering their partner. They're rediscovering their children, you know. In terms of calming their stress level, I introduce them to meditation, introduce them to yoga, introduce them to breathing therapies that can actually calm their system down. There's so many ways of dealing with the stress, something that they probably wouldn't have encountered before the pandemic.
Can I come in there? Can I come in there?
Yes,
right.
Patience, please go ahead.
Okay. And on the other side too, there's lots of conflict and tension within the family space, because obviously people are under the same roof. So as you can imagine, the tension can be really high. So we've got sort of issues, people calling in in terms of relationship management issues. I mean, families not getting on very well. I mean, children also getting in the way. It's a whole lot of issues coming up. And then also when it's time for, people to sort of, take a bit of a break, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Yeah.
And so as we wrap up this conversation, for people who are seeking this kind of emotional support, who are seeking this kind of social support, what can they do? Is there a way they can reach you? For example, maybe social media, your website. How can people get in touch if they need to access this kind of emotional support?
Well, they can contact our help. Our telephone number is 0201 8888 440. Or you go on the website www.Supreme Healthcare Management Services or www.eapafrica.com.
www.eapafrica.com.
Yeah. Yes.
Ladies, I'm really grateful that you joined us, and I hope that people who are watching have taken a cue and that they'll be able to focus more on the positive in these hard times. I've been talking to Patience Osekere and Billy Richardson. They are both psychotherapists with EAP Africa on how you deal with all the stresses that comes with these times. You talk about financial stress, the emotional stress, all the stresses. That you can reach them on www.supreme. Okay, I missed that, but I think EAP Africa should take you there. EAP Africa should take you right there. Ladies, thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, away from that, the District Grand Lodge of Ghana has presented medical equipment comprising 2 specialized ultra-low freezers and 1,000 PCR test kits to the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. The equipment, valued at about 280,000 cedis, was presented by representatives of the District Grand Lodge of Ghana, led by the District Grand Master, Isaac Owuleku Hood.
We, the district in Ghana, have equally been in existence for 89 years now. The tenets of our institution is brotherly love, relief, and truth. And our principal tenet is about charity. This may not be the first institution we are coming. Let me say, put on record, that we have been assisting various institutions. When this unfortunate pandemic broke up, we consulted with your professional colleagues who are members of our fraternity. We have a lodge in our fraternity dedicated only to medical profession. It is called the Hippocrates Lodge. We consulted with them, and they advised that we should go in for this equipment, which we accepted that with their profession, they were giving us the right advice. Secondly, Noguchi being the frontliner, the principal frontliner, we said, well, we couldn't go anywhere else than to come here first. On behalf of the brethren of the District Grand Lodge of Ghana, it is my pleasurable duty to present this ultra-low freezer to you, through you, to the Noguchi Memorial Institute of Medical Research. And of course, 1,000 pieces of the PCR test kits.
Director of the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, Professor Abraham Kwabena Annan, expressed their gratitude to the District Grand Lodge of Ghana.
Really, I should say that this donation is particularly outstanding. And this equipment gives us that unique opportunity to be able to archive, store biological samples, specimen, that can be kept for many years and used to do very, very important research and development work. We know for now the diagnostics that we are using, the RT-PCR, even though it is a very sensitive thing and very good thing, we also know that it takes some time to run it. And we need to have research to be able to bring on board diagnostic tests that are more rapid, even less invasive, and to be able to provide the results that we need for today. So really, you can see why we should be extremely happy to receive the ultra-low freezer from our brothers, the District Grant Lodge of Ghana. It is an invaluable support on behalf of the University of Ghana, Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. I would want to say that we received the ultra-low freezers, and we are very happy.
We're gearing up for some breaking news coming in right now, and the news is President Akufo-Addo has directed the Domolevo, who is Auditor General, to take accumulated leave. And I have the statement right here. I'll read to you what the statement says. The subject is President Akufo-Addo directs Auditor General to take his accumulated annual leave. And it goes on to say that the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has directed Mr. Daniel Yao Domolevo, the Auditor General, to take his accumulated annual leave of 123 working days, according to records available to the presidency, with effect from Wednesday, 1st of July 2020. That's 2 days from now. It goes on to say that the president's decision to direct Mr. Domolevo to take his accumulated annual leave is based on sections 21 and 31 of the Labor Act 2003, Act 651, which apply to all workers, including public office holders such as the Auditor General. According to the Act, it goes on to say a worker is entitled to annual leave with full pay, a calendar year of continuous service which cannot be relinquished or forgone by the worker or employee, which means that it is mandatory and the person must necessarily take that leave. It goes on to say in the third paragraph that since his appointment as Auditor General on the 30th of December 2016, Mr. Domolevo has taken only 9 working days off his accumulated annual leave of 132 working days. Fourth paragraph says it will be recorded that on the 9th of April 2009, the third president of the Fourth Republic, His Excellency the late Professor John Evans Atta Mills, directed the then Auditor General, Mr. Edward Jiajiman, to take his accumulated annual leave of approximately 264 working days. Next paragraph, President Akufo-Addo paid attention to this precedent in directing the Auditor General to take his accumulated annual leave of 123 working days. The Auditor General has been further directed to hand over all matters relating to his office to Mr. Johnson Ekwuamoah Asiedu, the Deputy Auditor General, to act as Auditor General until his return from his well-deserved leave. I'll go through the final paragraph again so you know when it's supposed to start and who he's supposed to hand over. It says that, first of all, President Akufo-Addo was advised by President, something that has happened earlier, and it says that Mr. Domolevo, the Auditor General, has been further directed to hand over all matters relating to his office to Mr. John Ekwuamoah Asiedu, who is the current Deputy Auditor General, to act as Auditor General until Mr. Domolevo's return after 123 days. This is signed by Eugene Ahin, who is Director of Communications at the Office of the President. So this is news just coming in, breaking news just coming in from the presidency. The Auditor General, Mr. Daniel Domolevo, has been asked to proceed on leave. He has 123 days, and the letter doesn't necessarily state, but it looks like it takes immediate effect as he's been directed to hand over the work, everything that he's doing in all details, to his deputy, who will act as Auditor General right now. I'm joined on the phone by Vitus Azim, anti-corruption crusade, and also former head of the GII. Hello, Mr. Azim. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
welcome.
Hello, sir. Can you hear
welcome.
Me? Right.
Yes, I can hear you.
I believe you have seen this circular.
Yes, I've seen it. It's floating around on WhatsApp.
What do you make of it?
The letter quotes several sections of the laws that require that you should go, public officers should go on leave. But I'm just wondering whether it is the duty of the mandate of the president to do that, because the law says that nobody shall interfere in the work of or have control or interfere in the work of the Auditor General. So I thought that this should have come from Parliament, or maybe the Public Services Commission. I'm not sure about the law, but I thought that should have been the case, because the Auditor General is answerable to Parliament. He reports to Parliament, and I thought that this could have been done through Parliament if I thought it was necessary.
Okay, let me just quote to you a part of the documents that says that it will be recalled, and this is in the 4, the 4th paragraph. It says it will be recalled that on 9th April 2009, 3rd President of the Fourth Republic, His Excellency Professor Evans Atta Mills, directed the then Auditor General, Mr. Edward Diajiman, to take his accumulated annual leave of approximately 264 working days. It goes on to say that President Akufo-Addo paid attention to this precedent in directing the Auditor General to take its accumulated leave of 123 days. Precedent works, doesn't it?
Well, I have always said that I don't think they're the best. If, for example, President Evans Atta Mills did it, and if it was not right, doesn't mean that it should continue. So I don't find it necessary for them to have made that comparison. Yes, it happened in the past. Some people definitely complain about it, because we always tend to see it as a way of pushing out the person who is doing good work. But yes, they too should have taken their leave. Granted, they too should have taken their leave on an hour, and not to wait for it to accumulate like this. And it's a general problem with public servants, in top public servants. When they're supposed to take their leave, they don't take it for whatever reason. That is not right. Either you take it or you forfeit it. Or if your organization is in a position to pay you cash for it, yes. But for you to allow it to accumulate for so long, I think that's not proper. But then on the other side too, I don't think that the president should be the one, the executive should be the one directing the Auditor General to go on retirement. To go on leave. And in particular this year, it's interesting because the 123 days is going to cover the large portion of the period before the general election. And so we are likely to read political implications into the directive. And I think that is good for the country. It's not good for the president himself and his party. When you are using your power in a way that seeks to protect you or support you, it is like what our definition of corruption, abuse of public power or private gain. And so maybe that's how we look at it. But of course, I don't know. As I'm saying, I'm not sure what the law says, who should make him go on leave or not.
For an anti-corruption crusader like yourself, a lot of people have said that Daniel Domolevo has been one of the faces of people who are up vehemently against anti-corruption. And already, like you said, people are reading
against corruption.
I beg your pardon, against corruption. Already, like you said, people have started reading meanings into it. Does this do anything to our fight against corruption?
Yes, two ways. One is that if he has not got good reasons for failing to go on leave, that's not the best. He probably has done the wrong thing. But the other aspect, as I've already mentioned, is that when you wait till the election year, and I think he should also be heading towards retirement, it's like pushing him out of the way, because some of the reports that he has released do not speak well of the government, and it's likely to affect the voting pattern in the country. People are likely to use it, because as for corruption, it's a very sensitive issue, and the more we hear about it, the more we get angered about it, and the more we are most likely to vote against those who are doing that. And so, yeah, you cannot avoid but read political meanings into what has happened.
On the back of that, we've spoken to Mr. Domelevo himself in the wake of this release. He says that this has not been communicated to him. In your practice as a crusader, as a anti-corruption crusader, does this come across as normal?
It is not normal. The letter is written to that person. How come that the letter that is written to Mr. Domelevo is circulating in social media and maybe other platforms when he has not served that letter? That's not proper. And you see, again, that adds to the readings that people give to this action. What is the point? To embarrass him or what? Why don't you serve in the letter and then it's put in the public domain? If it was a press release, it's okay, but this it's not a press release. I think it is a letter that has been written to him. Why hasn't he not got it?
You refer to it as people reading meanings into it, but doesn't it hold water? If you look at the work that Mr. Domelevo has done, what we have seen in the media, you know, he's seen to be going fearlessly after people, you know, sitting government officials. Does do the perceptions that you talk about not hold any water at all in terms of the fight against corruption, that this is happening to him because he stood up against persons in government when it comes to corruption, the fight?
Yeah, definitely. No, you see, no corrupt person would want to be exposed. And so when you have a strong Auditor General that is exposing a lot of corruption deals, and especially as they have complained about the way sometimes the reports are released into the public domain, definitely they will be looking for a way of getting him out. So yeah, it holds water, and it's not the first time he has been taken to court and was found guilty of contempt of court. So definitely, the meaning, the feelings people have definitely holds water. Hold water, sorry.
If you were in his position, Mr. Azim, what would you typically do?
Well, if it is true that he has accumulated this leave, I think and if it is also true that the president has power to direct him to go and leave, then I think he has no choice than to proceed on his leave.
And he's supposed to hand over to his deputy, who will be acting in his stead. Certainly, if the person is the deputy, he's learned on the job. I mean, they've been working together, so that shouldn't be such a big deal, should it?
Well, Mr. Domelevo was working with a team. And so whatever good things he did would also be credited to the team. And so if he's an internal person, a deputy auditor general, we hope that he would follow the steps of his boss and also work the same way that Mr. Domelevo has led the office to work.
Okay.
So we just have to wait and see. We cannot foretell now. If they had brought in somebody from outside, we could immediately say, well, maybe this is a party man that they are bringing in. But it's a temporary position. He's proceeding on leave and he's supposed to come back. I don't know the effect of that on when he's supposed to go on retirement. So, well, I think that things should go normally. We shouldn't expect any wonders.
Looks like there's a lot to be expected in the coming days. By the way, the Deputy Auditor General who is supposed to be taking over is Johnson Ekwamwa Asiedu. Mr. Azim, I thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it. Vitus Azim is anti-corruption crusader. He is the former head of the Ghana Integrity Initiative here in Ghana. I'll tell you what the Ghana Water Company is saying. The Ghana Water Company has just released a presser in which they are directing or indicating to the general public that they're ending the free water delivery. We'll get to that story shortly also. But the incentive packages for health workers in the fight against COVID-19 has been extended by President Akufo-Addo. The earliest date for the end of the tax waivers for all health workers and an additional 50% of basic salary per month for frontline workers is now September 30.
Who continue to care for those affected by the virus and for the sick in general. In recognition of their efforts, I announced during my 5th address to the nation on Sunday, 5th April 2020, an incentive package to motivate and express appreciation to all health workers for the months of April, May, and June. I'm happy to announce that I have decided to extend the incentive package for health workers by another 3 months. This means that all health workers will pay no income taxes for the next 3 months, i.e. July, August, and September. Again, all frontline health workers, as defined by the Ministry of Health, will continue to receive the additional allowance of 50% of their basic salary per month, i.e. for July, August, and September. I know the implementation of this directive for the months of April, May, and June has been fraught with some challenges, caused mainly by the protracted discussions over the definition of who qualifies as frontline health workers in this context. I have, however, been assured that they have now been resolved and payments will be effected from the end of June. I should reiterate that the insurance package for health workers is still in place. Whilst we appreciate the efforts of our health workers, I continue to urge them to remain professional and compassionate. Every avoidable death, be it corona-related or not, is a tragedy.
President Akufo-Addo there with the incentive packages for frontline health workers. Let's talk about water. It's one of the incentives, if you like, not really incentives, but one of the social interventions that the president announced earlier when he also announced incentives for health workers in the very first one. The Ghana Water Company this afternoon is noticing or sending notice to the public that they're ending the free water delivery. So it's been suspended as it is. Let's get to Stanley Mate, who speaks for the Ghana Water Company Limited. He's joining me on Zoom so he can tell us more about this move. Hello, Mr. Mate. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Hello, good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Okay, so you're suspending the free water delivery.
We are not suspending, but the president's directive is supposed to end in June. So we had given out water from April, May, and we are ending in June. We all know that June ends tomorrow, so we only want to notify our consumers that it's come to an end.
And you're doing this because you don't want people to, I mean, why has this become necessary? People knew that the president said it will end in June anyway.
Oh, yes, but just to notify the public so that maybe when we start billing them, they wouldn't start complaining again that we didn't inform them and everything. We are just being proactive. And like we do all the time, we think it's necessary that we inform our consumers or our customers that, yes, it's come to an end. You also will know that we also pleaded with some consumers to allow, or some customers to allow people to fetch water from their homes for free. So if it's coming, the directive is coming to an end, we need to notify them and to express our appreciation for their support for their neighbors and other Ghanaians. So we think it's necessary, and that is what we have done. Thank you.
You do have a list of things that you are asking people to do. You have something for landlords, you have something for water vendors, you have something for disconnected customers, you have something as well for all, you are talking about all your pay points. I want you to go through that for the public to know.
Okay, so for landlords, we want them to revert to their original arrangement with their tenants. Some landlords prefer to sell the water to their tenants so that they wouldn't have to go through the challenges or the problems associated with collecting the water revenue from their tenants. Some also give to their tenants for free or no, allow them to fetch, and then at the end of the month, they share the bill. But because of the directive, we requested that they give out the water for free. So we wanted to, or we want to let them know that it has come to an end so that you can revert to your original program or your regional arrangement, so that when you are billed, you wouldn't be found wanting. Now, for water vendors, they also sell the water. Some of them make a bit of profit because they sell a bit higher than the normal approved tariff. So, and we had requested of them to also give out the water for free. We want to let them know that it has come to an end so they can revert back to their businesses. And then we also, there were some communities where we had throughout the country, we had some disconnected customers prior to the president's directive. And as a result of the directive, we have requested some of our districts to just reconnect them so that they can have access to or also enjoy the free water. So we want to say that if they want to continue enjoying the water as it is, although not free, then they have to settle their arrears, and then they can remain reconnected, and then they can enjoy the water. And then we also have for our pay points, we also want to notify consumers that our pay points are opened during working hours throughout the week. And so we expect that those who are owing prior to the present directive take advantage to start to settle their bills. During the COVID during the free period, some people took advantage and they paid their bills. Some also still took it as a holiday, but then we need to notify them that the holiday has ended. So it's essential that they make all arrangements to pay their bills, then they can enjoy water flow through their taps. Okay. So that is it. So it's just simple directions, and we expect that customers will follow, and so that they can help the GWCL to serve them better.
And this will probably be my final question. Now, as recent as last week, I had people sending in messages here on the show asking about the water because they said it wasn't running through their taps. The ones that they're supposed to get for free, they're still having to pay and all. Did you conduct an audit to find out whether everybody actually had their fair share of this social intervention? And for those who didn't get it, is there a plan for the Ghana Water Company Limited to sort them out somehow?
Anyway, we've not had a perfect system, okay? And the president's directive doesn't mean or wouldn't have meant that water was going to flow anywhere or everywhere.
Not so, really?
Okay, we've had challenges in the system. The challenges still persist, but we did everything we could to make sure that more people had water than access to water than before. Okay, so we have done our best. We didn't expect that all Ghanaians were going to get water just because the president had given the directive that water should be for free. So those who were fortunate have enjoyed it. Unfortunately, some couldn't. We are sorry about that. But then before they can get even water, then we have to go through some processes. We are in the processes. We are still in the process, and we are making sure that our target of 100% access by the year 2030 will be met. So we are working around the clock so that we can do that. But for now, we don't have a perfect system. So we knew that it wasn't everybody who was going to have access. But we made other provisions. For instance, we procured close to 700 water tanks, mounted them within our communities, especially deprived areas. And we served these water tanks with water tankers. And the people people fetched water from those areas for free. Mm-hmm. So we have done enough audit, and we know that most people had access to the free water, but we know that it isn't 100%, and we're not expecting to get 100%.
Okay, so in effect, there's nothing for those who didn't get, essentially.
We are still working out the possibility of increasing the number of water tanks within the communities, especially the deprived areas. But this time, they will have to pay to fetch the water. Okay. Because it can't be for free. Okay. So we are doing everything within our means to enable Ghanaians have access to water throughout the day and throughout the week. But currently, it's not a perfect system. We can't vouch that everybody is going to get access to water throughout the day.
Mr. Mazi, thank you very much for the explanation, and I believe that this public service that we have done has gone down well with people. Thank you once again this afternoon. Stanley Mate speaks for the Ghana Water Company, he's the head of communication there. So if you, just in case your friends, your colleagues don't know, let them know that the free water has ended, because the president indicated it will end in June, by the end of June. And June ends tomorrow, so there won't be any free water. Now, government is dispelling claims by the opposition NDC that its security deployment along the country's borders is to deliberately intimidate and prevent persons living in neighboring countries from partaking in the voter registration exercise. The NDC, following some comment by Adansi Asokwa MP Katie Hammond last week, took on the governing New Patriotic Party, tagging them as bigots. But at a press conference today, the Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwu said the deployments were made as far back as March 30 to help the Immigration Service ensure compliance to the border restrictions. We'll bring you details of that news conference shortly, because the minority in Parliament believes there's a deliberate attempt to prevent residents in areas they believe are their strongholds from registering. This morning, the NDC has been holding a press conference in Aplau to raise the concern about this matter. First, a report by JoyNews' Henry Kwesi Bedu looking at how this story has shaped up.
Earlier this week, there were reports some security officials have been deployed into some communities in the Volta region. This sparked some controversy. First, some residents of Ketu South, who spoke to JoyNews, alleged these security officials in their neighborhood were intimidating and physically abusing them.
We are suffering here. The way life day before, there is no where life day is now. So before we get food, we are suffering before we get food here. Before we get food, we enter Togo before we bring food back for our brothers, our mothers to eat. Now, soldiers are around beating people. So we don't get food to eat. So we need government to do something about this. We are suffering here too.
I'm a teacher in Togo, but I have been in Ghana for a year now. Though the border is closed, we are still doing our best to continue living.
We do our business in Togo, but since the closure of the border, we are not able to go there. Now they have brought soldiers here because we will be registering on Thursday. Honestly speaking, it will be more difficult for us now. It is our prayer the government can help in a way, because some of our siblings also school in Togo.
The minority in Parliament then accused the government of deliberately spearheading the deployment to prevent residents who are believed to be on the side of the minority from openly participating in the upcoming voters' registration.
In a few days, we are going to commence with the compilation of a new voters register without any provocation whatsoever. The state has decided to deploy military personnel and platforms along our frontiers, which are also perceived to be the strongholds of the opposition NDC. Our take on the unprovoked deployment is that there is a certain scheme which is designed by government to intimidate our teeming supporters.
Government appointees and MPP parliamentarians have been responding to these concerns. First to respond to the minority was Adansi Asokwa MP Katie Hammond. He was emphatic. The security officials are in the Volta region to prevent foreigners from registering for the new voter roll.
The Togolese and the Voltarians, when I'm talking about the Volta region, I mean, there is the kind of, remember the history, Professor, if you guys know the history about this place, basically the same tribe. So they walk in, come, but they are not Ghanaians. I mean, when they walk in there, they can do whatever they do. So I guess that is the reason for that. This is the whole issue. We want there to be sanity. The military is there to make sure that you vote if you are Ghanaian. You vote if you have the right, constitutional right in Ghana to vote. That's all there is. They are not electoral officers, but they are peacekeeping force. We are keeping the peace.
That was Friday morning. Later that evening, Volta Regional Minister Dr. Archibald Letcher said that was not the reason why the deployment was made.
So as far as I am aware, this is not meant to intimidate anybody. This is not supposed to interfere with the voter registration. In any case, the borders are closed. So if we enforce the closure of the border, which are closed in any way, so I don't think there's any problem.
On Saturday morning, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry seems to settle the contradictions with an insistence the security operatives are in the Volta region to simply enforce government border closure aimed at halting the spread of COVID-19.
Is seriously misconceived. We closed the borders as part of the COVID protocols. And you recall that when it all started, the first batch of positives were 1 Ghanaians who came from outside, 2 nationals of neighboring countries. As part of the protocols, we closed the borders. And when we closed the borders, we set up security personnel to maintain them. Our experience over the time is that the eastern border continued to give us a cause for worry because we were coming in. We've now discovered over 250 unapproved routes. So the police being there and the military being there is to ensure that our borders are closed.
Henry Kwesi Bedu's report for JoyNews.
As a report filed by Henry Kwesi Bedu, read by Latif Idrisu. While the NDC MP for Ketu South, Fifi Kwete, led the party's charge against the deployment, accusing the government of deliberately deploying the soldiers to the constituency to intimidate their teaming supporters and prevent them from registering in the voter registration exercise, which starts tomorrow.
We are in no doubt that this massive deployment of the military and other security personnel in the Ketu South municipality and other border towns of our region has been timed to coincide with the commencement of the voter registration exercise across the country. These deployments are creating panic and anxiety among residents of Ketu South and other affected towns and districts. Interviews done by some of your colleagues in the media reveal that residents along the Ghana-Togo border are living in a state of fear due to the presence of the military. The MC of Ketu South, who represent the presence here, has explained that the reason for the deployment of the military personnel is so that they can help check unapproved routes to prevent foreigners who happen to be infected with COVID-19 from coming from neighboring Togo and risk increasing the cases of COVID in our country. Now, this position has been supported by the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Letcher, as well. Now, so this is the official government explanation for the turning of Aplau and other border towns in the region into virtual war zones. How laughable. How utterly ridiculous. The total COVID-19 case count in Togo stands at about 615. This is less than the case count in Greater Accra, less than Ashanti region, less than the Western region, less than the Central region, and just about 75 cases above the case count in the Eastern region. Now, so if there is any fear of COVID, it should rather be the people of Togo who should be afraid of Ghanaians crossing the border to spread COVID-19 in Togo and not the other way around. The epicenter of COVID-19 in West Africa is not Togo. Ghana is in a very comfortable lead and struggling to be one of the highest as far as the region is concerned. So, and also, one of the first persons who came into our country with the virus was in the presidential entourage in Oslo. So this official reason being provided is not just hollow, It is laughable and actually represents an insult to the intelligence of our people. Just a few days ago, the MPP parliamentary primaries across different constituencies became virtual COVID-19 dissemination conferences.
Fifi Kwete is Member of Parliament for the area. Well, we can listen to the Interior Minister, Dominic Nitiwo, the Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwo. He said prior to the March 30 deployment, government since 2019 has been in an operation codenamed Conquered Fist. They deployed 12 officers and 372 men of the military, 4 officers and 265 men of the police, plus another 172 immigration officials, 70 GRA officials. That was to ensure sanity along some of the country's border towns in the Upper East, Upper West, Northern and Northeast regions.
It's a very serious matter. We have realized that, like he stated, since last week, certain individuals have been setting an agenda that the government has deployed soldiers to Aflau or to Volta region to prevent people from voting or registering. And that has been upped since 3 days ago, and this morning we saw it going on, the distortions. And it's my duty as a defense minister to let the people of Ghana know what we have been doing, where we are, and where we are going. As you would have heard last year from the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the Republic, Nana Akufo-Addo, he ordered deployment of Ghanaian troops to the northern borders under an operation code-named Operation Conquered Fist. It was not just soldiers, there were peace people, there were immigration people, and GRA. This deployment happened on 21st February 2019. 21st February 2019. That is when the first set of deployments along our borders happened under the code Operation Conquered Fist.
Dominic Nitiwo is Defense Minister there. Well, before we go on to do Let's Talk Showbiz, which is how we wrap up the show, he, like many fishing observers, chose to be Ghana's frontline defenders against an overfishing crisis that is among the worst in West Africa. But it appears that the fight is being lost as these observers are either threatened or in some cases go missing on fishing trawlers. In July 2019, Emmanuel Essien was declared missing at sea without a trace. A year on, his family says it is yet to receive the outcome of that investigation. All these compelling details are in our latest Hotline documentary.
Research conducted by EFG in 2017 revealed that approximately 100,000 tons of fish were landed through cycle, out of the total 167,000. What this means is that just 40% of catches were landed legally and reported to the Fisheries Commission, despite observers being present on a number of vessels. One of such observers who did his job diligently was Emmanuel Essien. Essien, prior to this job, had been unemployed for over a year. His brother remembers how elated he was when he got the chance to serve as an eye on Ghana's sea.
Me want to say, Puejuma Dana Kumaso, and I say, Juma say, Debbie. Okay, Juma. No tell me say when you Juma, and I'm so big to me, and also obey to me. Yes, he was happy. So when you Juma, na there was soko. And so you man oh no o jide soko ene adwuma. Nti se no nta na adwokra na oba me o gidi kra na ade chia okwe.
So onye adwuma the following day na no ko.
Debi. Onye adwuma to mean say obo mamanye no na me fi say bia. Nti dabi me ono till me anadwo na and I make pace come on and to always toy and Sunday. I'm so by mobile Friday, in the 3 days.
But his confidence in excelling in the new job was short-lived. Emmanuel left home on the 30th of June after he had been given a short notice from his bosses at the Fisheries Commission to be on board Megxin 15 trawler. But just 6 days after he left his wife and 2 children, they got a call that was going to change their lives forever.
30th July na on the 5th July na 30th June. On the 5th July na friend say amuhunu e wonsu no so. Obi a me na di nkomo yi na ba nse na amuhunu na amumai ne company ni number and friend I'm director bi or friend Mr. Lee. The friend na also am pamwa TV and I must sign vessel on the back. I must sign vessel on the back into no yen train.
This news came in as a shock to not only the family but the president of the Trawlers Association, Dr. Eni, who first received the news.
Well, I was the first, or one of the first people who had a message that something has happened on the vessel. And so my first response is, call the police, call the Fisheries Commission, and the owner of the vessel did just that. In fact, I spent about 4 or 5 hours at the port when the vessel arrived, because what we then did was to ask the vessel to come, because if you can't find the observer, then the most rational thing to do is to bring the vessel. And before the vessel arrived, I think about 3, 4, 5 hours, the police had been notified, the Fisheries Commission had been notified, the vessel berthed, the police, the BNI, and all other agencies, security agencies at the port went on the vessel, collected, materials that they needed to use for their investigation. They picked all the sailors, they took statement from them. At the point we had to appear before the Maritime Authority. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as industry is concerned, we have followed due process.
We'll bring you more, and the documentary is airing later tonight here on the Joy News channel. There's more news at myjoyonline.com if you do log on. My name is Gifty Andop.